Welcome dear friends to my video lecture on communication that is purely in English. This is for English medium students because some people have asked for it. So I am starting a new channel called JESU NET 525. JESU NET 525. You will see in the thumbnail itself. I will give the address, my ID of the YouTube. Is a new channel just for English. Those who want to hear just English words or English version of the topics, you are most welcome for this new channel, that is JESU NET 525. Let us straight away enter into the topic. Dear friends, this is a new channel, so I request you to subscribe and also like the video so that from the beginning it takes the speed. And I have quite a lot of videos, hundreds of videos in English. Of course, I will give it in Tamil also in jesueasy. That's a previous channel, old channel. Constantly I will be uploading in both English channel as well as Tamil channel. Bilingual also. In the old channel I will be giving the bilingual videos, English, Tamil and Tamil alone. And in the new channel, this is what I am going to give you just now, is English version of the topics. So kindly support me for this also. I am very happy about it because people are getting confused because of various videos with the different languages. They don't know where to go, what to do, something like. That's why I just kept one channel only for Tamil and bilingual and another channel for English. So most welcome to this channel. Let us straight away enter into the topic, that is communication. What is communication? According to Ricky W. Griffin, communication is the process of transmitting information from one person to another. In other words, it is the process of passing information from one person to another person. What is the meaning of communication? Communication means transfer of ideas, opinions, feelings, facts, etc. from one person to another. The word communication has been derived from the Latin word communis, which can be translated as common. So, this particular word communication comes from the Latin word communis, that is the root word for communication, meaning common. Communication can be defined as the process through which two or more persons come to exchange ideas and understanding among themselves. What are the various definitions given by different experts? Of course, I saw some people speaking about this definition. They say no, definitions are not necessary. In my opinion, even in the first paper, for the concept, definitions, characteristics are very important. Don't go by the words, because from the definitions, from the characteristics of the concepts, so many questions are being asked. I am absolutely sure about it out of my experience. So always nothing wrong by going through the various definitions of the concepts, characteristics of the concepts, etc. And just a mere question and answer also will not help. What is the use of just enjoying mere question and answer? Are you sure that you are going to get the same questions? It is not at all possible. That is why I asked you to go through the concepts first, understand the basic concepts in each topic. After that, you go for any number of questions and answers. That would be of great help to you. But till then, don't be deceived by anyone who says that definitions are not important, characteristics are not important. Some people are saying, it's a surprise to me. Anyway, I request you to go through the definitions, characteristics of concepts and all, so that you are able to understand the concept. Then any number of questions you can answer. Now, let us see the definition of communication. According to Fred G. Mayer, communication is the intercourse by words, letters or messages, intercourse or of opinions. It is the act of making one's ideas and opinions known to others. According to Louis A. Allen, communication is the sum of all the things one person does when he wants to create understanding in the mind of another. It involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. So, communication involves a systematic and continuous process of telling, listening, and understanding. According to Coons and O'Donnell, communication is a way in which one organization member shares meaning and understanding with another. So, this is according to the management principle. In fact, Coons and O'Donnell is a management expert. So, he defines communication in a particular way, and he says communication is a way in which one organization member shares meaning and understanding with another. What are the characteristics of communication? It involves at least two persons. It involves a sender and a receiver. The sender is called a communicator and the receiver is called a communicatee. I think he is missing here. Communicatee. Yeah. Then in communication, message is the must. There should be a message for any communication. A message is the subject matter of communication. For an example, the contents of the letter or speech, order from higher officials or instructions from higher officials and the suggestions. So, a message is the subject matter of communication. A communication must convey some message. Without message, there is no communication. No communication can exist without message. Message is a must. Then, communication is written, oral and gesture. In reality, communication is more than speaking and writing. It includes everything that conveys meaning from one person to another. For an example, movement of the lips and the wink of an eye and the wave of hands. All these are examples of, gestural communication. So finally, it conveys meaning to different persons. The movement of lips, the wink of an eye, and the wave of hands also become part of communication, but gestural communication or non-verbal communication. Communication is a two-way process. Communication is not complete unless the receiver has understood the message properly. Also, his reaction or response should be known to the sender. Understanding is the end result of communication, but it does not imply agreement. It's a very nice point here. Communication is done for understanding the speaker. What the speaker speaks should be understood by the receiver. That is the end result of communication. It does not mean that he should agree. The receiver should agree with everything that the sender says. So that is the idea here. He understands the message, but doesn't mean that he should agree with that idea of the sender. So most important point here. Then its primary purpose, the communication's primary purpose is to motivate a response or to influence human behavior. Communication is formal or informal. Formal communication follows the formal channels provided in the organization structure. Informal channels develop among members because of personal contacts through working with each other. So I hope you understood this. Formal or informal communication. Formal communication at the official level, from the higher to the ordinary worker. It's like a formal communication. Informal communication among the friends. We can give as an example. Then communication flows up and down and also from side to side. That is, communication flows up and down means that is a vertical communication. It can come from the top official to the worker, or it can go from the bottom layer workers to the officials. So that way, up and down. And also from side to side. What does this mean? That is among the peer group members, among the workers, among the teachers, among the friends. So they are of the same status. Without any fear, they will be communicating with each other. So that is horizontal communication. The side-to-side communication is called horizontal communication. Communication flows downward from a superior to subordinates and upward from subordinates to a superior. It also flows between two or more persons operating at the same level of authority. Communication is an integral part of the process of exchange. Communication refers to the exchange of ideas, feelings, emotions and knowledge and information between two or more persons. I hope you understood this. What are the objectives of communication? To convey the right message. Communication is meant for conveying the right message to the right person. The receiver should understand it correctly so that he may be able to carry out the message effectively. Secondly, it should serve coordination. Communication serves coordination. Communication coordinates the efforts of all who are running a school or who are running a college or any organization or managerial firm, etc. So to serve coordination. Then to create industrial relations. Communication aims at good industrial relations. And to develop managerial skill. Communication helps in developing managerial skill. Facts, information, ideas, etc. enrich the knowledge of the executive and increases his wisdom and skill. And another purpose is to create effectiveness of policies. Effective communication is helpful for the successful implementation of the policies and programs. And another important purpose of communication is to boost morale among the people. The effective system of communication promotes the efficiency of employees. It is the employees who accomplish the given task according to the objectives of the institution. Now let us discuss how the communication process operates. That is, what is the communication process? What are the various elements involved in communication process? First of all, it is a cyclic process. It goes on and on. It is cyclic. First it starts with the sender. Then sender gives the message. The message is done through some encoding. And then what he encodes is understood by the receiver and he tries to decode. I mean, the language is understood and he tries to understand in his own language. So that way it goes. Then after getting the message, the receiver sends the feedback to the sender again. So that way it goes on and on till the complete communication happens. In other words, till the communication becomes perfect, it goes on and on. So the sender, message, encoding, receiver, decoding, feedback. These are the elements in the communication process. Please mark these words, dear friends. Sender, message, encoding. So the word encoding very much belongs to the sender. Encoding means he gives the message through some channels like a letter, telephone message or through pictures like that. The receiver gets that message and he understands in his own language. And if he doesn't understand, he gives the feedback to the sender. That is why I have given the arrows here. I hope you understand this. So just let us discuss the various components of the communication as the process or communication process. The process of communication begins when one person, the sender, wants to transmit an idea or message to another person. So the process of communication starts with the sender, then message. This is the subject matter of communication. It may be opinions, attitudes, feelings, views, suggestions, orders, etc. Then encoding. Since the subject matter of communication is abstract and intangible, not easily understandable, comprehensible, The sender uses certain symbols such as words, actions, pictures, etc. Conversion of the subject matter into these symbols is the process of encoding. I hope you understand this. Next, channel. These symbols are transmitted through certain channels. Example, radio, telephone, letter, face-to-face talk, depending upon the situation of the two parties, namely the sender and the receiver. Who is the receiver? Receiver is the person who is supposed to get the message. What is decoding? Decoding very much goes along with the receiver. The receiver only decodes the message sent by the sender. So decoding means translating the message into words for the purpose of understanding. That feedback, finally feedback, it refers to the reaction, reply or the response sent by the receiver to the sender. So again please see this. Often people are asking in the NET question paper, that is sender, message, encoding, channel, receiver, decoding, feedback. All these words are components of communication cycle. What are the principles of communication? Clarity. The communication message should be clear. It should be communicated in simple, easy and commonly understood language. It is the speaker who makes them meaningful and it is the receiver who interprets them. I hope you understood this. Therefore, whatever is conveyed should be conveyed in unambiguous, clear words. It should be in clear words. It should be very clear. The communication should be clear, in other words. Then attention. Another important principle is attention. An effective communication should draw the attention of the receiver. Mere words may not help. They should lead men into action. A good manager has to decide the time of communication. This decision of time helps him in reducing the effect of man's emotions and moods. So the attention is very important. Then consistency is another principle of communication. The communication should be consistent with the plans, policies, programs and objectives of the institution. Communication should be consistent among themselves. Inconsistency creates confusion. Better coordination is achieved by consistent communication. Then adequacy. Communication should be adequate and complete, not broken or incomplete. Inadequate communication delays actions. It spoils understanding as well as good relations. Then another principle is proper time when you are giving the communication. Information should be communicated at the proper time. Wrong choice of time may not have any impact on the receiver. Then finally, integration. Communication is based on the policy of integration of efforts to avoid confusion. It should get the cooperation of all and also help in better understanding. Then informability, flexibility in other words, informability, friendly in other words. The executive should try to be informal in his behavior with the subordinates. Then only communication will be very effective. Then finally feedback. Communication is a two-way traffic. Messages, policies, programs, directions, opinions, etc. are communicated downward. Grievances, complaints, suggestions, etc. are communicated upward, vertical communication. Both are necessary in an organization. Thus, communication is also termed as a two-way process. It follows the principle of give and take. The reaction should be calmly watched, sympathetically received, and incorporated wherever and whenever necessary. Because of the feedback, oral communication is regarded better than the written communication because we could clear our doubts with the oral communication. If we don't understand, we can ask the sender to rephrase it and then send the message. There is a possibility of correcting the the communication that is said in a wrong way. So that's why the feedback is very essential. So because of the feedback, oral communication is regarded better than the written communication, very important point. Then vertical and horizontal communication. Vertical communication is the one that flows both up and down the organization, usually along the formal reporting lines. This consists of the two types, namely upward communication and downward communication. What is upward communication? It consists of messages from subordinates to superiors. The message may be in the form of requests, responses to requests, suggestions, complaints, etc. Then there is a downward communication. It occurs when information flows down the hierarchy from superiors to subordinates. The message may be in the form of directions, assignments, performance, feedback, etc. Then horizontal communication. This communication occurs among colleagues and peers at the same level in the organization. Then there is a very important type of communication, namely grapevine communication. In every organization, there is an informal channel of communication called the grapevine. It is quite natural for a group of people working together to be interested in one another and talk about appointments, promotions, retrenchments, that is depromotion, retrenchments, or even domestic affairs. Some people derive great pleasure from gathering such secret information and transmitting it to others. Kate Davis points out that the grapevine is very much a product of the situation. Certain situations like insecurity of service, uncertainty over promotions, special increments to a particular employee, etc., can cause rumors among the employees. The grapevine is basically a channel of horizontal communication because workers of the same status can informally communicate with one another with perfect ease. There is consensus, another type. When a number of people, irrespective of their status, sit down, discuss among themselves, and arrive at a decision acceptable to all, it is called consensus. I hope you understood. What are the modes or types of communication? Speaking, listening. In this type of communication, one man understand it by listening to him. For example, in the classroom, the teacher speaks and the students listen and understand what the teacher speaks. Similarly, listening to a talk over the radio or in the tape recorder and understanding it often comes under this category. This is also called oral communication. Then there is another type called visualizing, observing. In this type of communication, the sender encodes the thoughts, ideas, etc. into some pictures or other visual symbols. The receiver observes the pictures or other visual symbols and understands the thoughts, ideas, or messages communicated through them. For example, we understand the various traffic signals and symbols. That is a visual communication. Thirdly, speaking, visualizing. Sometimes both speaking and visualizing occur simultaneously. The receiver may listen and observe at the same time to understand the communication. When we watch the TV or see a sound film, we understand both the spoken words and the visuals. This kind of communication seems to be very effective. There is another type called writing and reading. Writing, reading. In this type of communication, the sender writes the words and sentences on something. These are read and understood by the reader. The reader need not be done through the reading need not be done through the eyes. For example, in the braille system of writing, raised dots are used. The blind man normally touches these dots and understands the message conveyed by them. Then there is another type called intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is a communication that a person has with him or herself. I mean, the person has communication with him. That is the idea here. Intrapersonal communication consists of the following. For example, sense making, interpreting maps, text, signs and symbols, etc. Then interpreting non-verbal communication, gestures, eye contact, etc. Communication between body parts. My stomach is telling me it is time for lunch. Then speaking aloud, reading aloud, repeating what one hears. Then writing by hand or word processor. One's thoughts or observations are written. You are saying something and then writing. So you are giving communication to yourself. Then making gestures while thinking. Under daydreaming. Daydreaming also comes under this intrapersonal communication. That is a communication given to oneself. Then object communication. There is another type. Often questions have been asked from this. The most common form of object communication is clothing. Clothes determine one's personality traits. A good example of clothing as object communication is the uniform. Also the body adornments such as the wedding rings, bindis as marital status, tattoos and brands. Also anything used as a status symbol comes under the category of object communication. Policeman wearing uniform, nurse wearing that white uniform, all these status symbols in a way. Object communication. Then artistic communication. Artistic expressions are non-verbal. For an example, music images often have ideas attached to them. Snake is considered as a symbol of evil. These are artistic communication. Paintings, photographs and media etc. use these symbols to communicate a message without stating it directly. Then there is classroom communication. Teaching may be considered as a sort of communication. The teacher is supposed to communicate new ideas, attitudes, information, behavior, skills etc. to the students. Teacher's communication will be fruitful only when students receive and understand it and learn from it. The teacher is the center of the communication and the students are the receivers of the communication. Only when the students understand the communication, they will respond to it in the proper manner. This response may be in the form of an answer to a question put by the teacher or an attitudinal change or behavior change. If learning is to be effective, communication process should travel along a clear channel without any obstacle. What are the barriers in classroom communication? Out of place interference, that is in the form of commercial and entertainment media. Sometimes the music is heard by the students inside the class, music outside. So that becomes an obstacle for them to listen to the teacher. This is called out of place interference. Then excessive verbalism, too many words to understand an easy concept. Then people get confused with regard to the understanding of the concept. That is called excessive verbalism. Then confusing words. So sometimes people use slang words. Slang words, they are specifically done in a particular region, and people from that particular district or region may understand certain words, not everyone else. So if you use it in the classroom, students may be confused. Confusing words should not be there. Then daydreaming, another important barrier in classroom communication. Students get into what you call daydreaming. If they find the concepts very difficult, they simply enter into their daydreaming. So paradise of daydreaming. The limited perception, another important obstacle in classroom communication. That means even the students are unable to understand. Their understanding level is very, very low, limited perception. Then physical discomfort. That is, no physical facilities available. Then naturally students cannot understand the words from the teacher because they are physically distracted. Then distrust. If the students don't trust the teacher, classroom communication will be very ineffective. Then individual differences. Students come from different backgrounds and they have different talents. Some people are very gifted, very much gifted. Some people are only average. Some students are below the level. They are dull and they are unable to learn anything new. There are a lot of individual differences. So these also cause trouble in the classroom communication. Then language problem, another important obstacle. Then unintelligent non-verbal communications. Non-verbal communication is being used in the classroom, but it should be proper, it should be appropriate to the words that they are uttering. When they say big, then they must show the hands big like this. Otherwise, suppose you say big and then you are bringing your hands closer as if you are talking about small thing, then people will get confused. If it is big, then you have to show your hands in a broader manner. That's the understanding. Unintelligent non-verbal communication. Then emotional factors, that also becomes a problem in effective classroom communication. Either the teacher can get into emotional outbursts or the students can get into emotional problems from their families. All these things can obstruct the flow of communication in the classroom. What are the guidelines for better classroom communication? Good teaching is more than mere communication. It seeks intercommunication between student and the teacher. There must be reaction and interaction with constant reciprocal feedback. Let us give some guidelines for effective classroom communication. Following factors may be considered in effective classroom communication. Two-way communication. Communication always should be two-way. That is, the teacher talks to the student talks to the teacher. There is a proper interaction between the teacher and the student. That is called a two-way communication. Then effective feedback for efficient teaching. Another factor for effective communication. Effective feedback. The teacher should get effective feedback from the students, from others, so that he improves his teaching. Then clarity in communication. The language should be simple, elegant, understandable for the receiver. Clarity requires a literary approach to language and familiarity with the language patterns of the learners. So it should be very clear, simple, elegant language we call it. Clarity in communication. The development of motivation. That's another important suggestion for effective classroom communication. Motivation on the part of the teachers to the students. Use of teaching technology. Then teaching strategies and skills. Overcoming distance. The teachers should often acknowledge the skills of the students or the mistakes of the students. You should appreciate them. You should lovingly talk to them. That is called overcoming distress. But through this, you can always overcome the distress from the students. Then overcoming individual differences. Another important suggestion. Overcoming language problem. Overcoming distracting stimuli from outside. So many distractions will be there even while students are sitting inside the classroom. So one needs to overcome such distracting stimuli. Then solving the emotional factors. Clarity in message. A logical organization of the message, very important one. The message should be organized in a neat, logical, coherent manner. So from simple to complex, that is called a logical organization of the message. Otherwise students will not understand. Then verification of communication. So communication always should be verified. If the teacher says something wrongly, then the students may get it and then they may develop falsity in their understanding. Or in other words, they will not be able to understand the correct version of anything. So the teacher has to verify his own communication and then give it in the classroom. Then belief in written communication, another suggestion given for effective classroom communication. Belief in written communication, because written communication fixes the concepts in the minds of the students. So the teacher should believe in it. So not only one, that's why the blackboard is there. Often the teacher should write something, the concepts on the board, and then he must utter the words. Both should go together. Then only students will be able to understand his concepts. Then different modes of communication. A systematic review of the literature reveals that there are 4 modes of communication, namely intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, group communication, mass communication. Of course, this is what we are talking about so far, but again we are revising it. Intrapersonal communication. This can be defined as a process through which one communicates with himself. This means the communication is within the self and to the self. For example, thinking, working out a problem, writing diaries, all come under this intrapersonal communication. That means, there is another communication called interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication may be defined as a process of interaction between two people, generally face to face. For example, interaction between teacher and student in the classroom, a telephone conversation, interview, etc. The emphasis on speech, non-verbal forms of communication. What is the difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal communication? Intrapersonal communication takes place when a student, without the help from anyone, solves a mathematical problem. Interpersonal communication occurs when his friend helps him in solving the same mathematical problem at every stage. That is the difference between intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication. I suppose you understand this. See, when the person calculates, himself on any mathematical problem, then it is intrapersonal communication. He does it to himself. In interpersonal communication, his friend helps him in solving the problem. So that is the difference between intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication. Then group communication. Group communication refers to the process of interaction within groups of people and by groups of people to others. The groups may be small or large. Example, a family and a committee meeting, etc. Then mass communication. Mass communication takes place when the communication is received by a large number of people. For example, open air concert for 1,000 people, radio and postal systems, etc. come under this. Now let us ask some question. The main purpose of evaluative listening is to accept or reject an idea given to the listener, to evaluate the speaker's credibility and personality, both of the above and none of these. So what is the correct answer here? To accept or reject an idea given to the listener. So the main purpose of evaluative listening is that is to accept or reject an idea given to the listener. Sometimes you may misunderstand as if option B is correct, but so we have to give the reason for that. Evaluative listening, that is critical listening, primarily focuses on assessing, judging and forming an opinion about what the speaker is saying. The listener evaluates the content of the message to determine whether to accept or reject the information, idea or proposal being presented. Whereas option B, evaluating the speaker's credibility and personality, while it can be a part of the overall process, is not the main purpose of evaluative listening. The primary goal remains focused on the content and the ideas presented by the speaker. That is why A is the correct one. Option C is incorrect because while evaluative listening can involve judging credibility as part of understanding and assessing the message, the main purpose is not to evaluate the speaker's personality, but to decide on the validity and acceptability of the ideas conveyed. Hence the correct and most precise answer is A. So I hope you understood the question first of all. The main purpose of evaluative listening is to accept or reject an idea given to the listener. The second seems to be true, but then to evaluate the speaker's credibility and personality, before that he should accept or reject the idea. That is what we are explaining in the answer. So the correct answer will be this one, to accept or reject an idea given to the listener. That is called evaluative listening. Then the sentence that the speaker decides to communicate to the listener is what? The sentence. When the sender makes a sentence, that is called a message. When the sender gives some sentence to the receiver, that is called a message, idea. So that is the correct answer, message. In the context of communication, the sentence that the speaker decides to communicate to the listener is referred to as the message. Why? Because the term message refers to the content or the information that the speaker wants to convey to the listener. It includes the ideas, thoughts, or data that the speaker intends to communicate. Then the signal is there, of course, another thing. What is the meaning of signal here? This term generally refers to the means by which the message is transmitted. In communication, a signal could be auditory, sound waves, visual, body language, written text, or another form of sensory stimulus. So that is signal. Speech. This term refers to the act of speaking or the verbal expression of thoughts. Speech is the physical manifestation of the message when it is spoken aloud. So which should be the right one? The sentence that the speaker decides to communicate to the listener is message. We are just explaining what are those terms mean, because in a way it is good. We need to understand certain concepts in communication. For that we are trying to explain those terms also. Signal, speech, cortex are not the correct alternatives, but we understand the meanings of all these things because it is also relevant from the exam point of view. The last one, cortex they have given. Cortex is not the right answer here, yes, but what is the meaning of cortex? The cortex is the outer layer of the brain involved in various functions such as processing sensory information and cognitive function, that is brain functions. It is not directly related to the concept of a communicated sentence, that is cortex. Now, third question. The air carrying sound waves and all the acoustic properties of the surrounding space like echoes, ambient noise and reverberation is called what? Is it message? Is it speech? Is it signal? Is it channel? Is it channel? In the context of sound and acoustics, the term channel refers to the medium through which the sound waves travel, including all the acoustic properties of the surrounding space such as echoes, ambient noise and reverberation. So message A refers to the content or information being conveyed. Speech B, the alternative B, speech, is the verbal expression or utterance of sounds that form language. Signal, that is the alternative C, can refer to the encoded information transmitted, often considered the actual sound waves or electric representation of sound. This is done by the receiver. Then channel, it is the correct term that describes the medium through which the sound waves propagate and encompasses the environment's acoustic properties affecting the sound. Therefore, the channel includes not only the air that carries the sound waves, but also factors like echoes, ambient noise, and reverberation, which influence how the sound is perceived. Now, next question. Which of the following is not a key characteristic of communication? The process of communication is continuous, ongoing, and dynamic. Is it true? Now here the question, you must understand the question, which is not a key characteristic of communication. That means out of 4 alternatives, 3 may be right. Maybe 1 will be or 1 will be wrong. That you have to find out. So the first one, the process of communication is continuous, ongoing, and dynamic. Very true. Communication begins with the self. That is also very true, no doubt, because the center has to start with some idea. So the communication begins with self. Then communication is reciprocal because there is interaction, isn't it? The center and the receiver, they reciprocate, to each other. And the center gives some message, and whether it is received or not, the receiver gives the feedback. That way it is reciprocal. And the last one, communication is not reciprocal. That cannot be in the communication dynamics. So communication is not reciprocal, is not the key characteristic of communication. So that's the right answer here according to the question. But that is not the key characteristic of communication. I hope you understand this. So the communication typically involves the exchange of information between 2 or more parties, making it a reciprocal process. Here is why the other options are correct characteristics of communication. Why they are correct? Just we give an explanation for this. The process of communication is continuous, ongoing, and dynamic. Communication is not a static event. It evolves over time as interactions occur and as participants respond to each other. Communication begins with self. Effective communication starts with the individual. Understanding one's own thoughts, feelings, and intentions is crucial for conveying messages clearly to others. Then communication is a reciprocal. This means that communication is a two-way process where all parties involved both send and receive messages, responding to and influencing each other. Since communication is inherently reciprocal, the statement communication is not a reciprocal is incorrect and therefore not a key characteristic of communication. I hope you understood this. Then interpersonal communication can encompass which of the following? Interpreting verbal communication, speaking aloud, talking to oneself, copying text to aid memorizing. So here we are talking about not interpersonal, intrapersonal, communication given to oneself. That is the idea here. No? So interpreting verbal communication will not come here because that is interaction, isn't it? One person speaks, another person interprets. So that will not come here. Intrapersonal means talking to oneself, communicating to oneself. That way option B and C may be right. Speaking aloud, talking to oneself, copying text to aid memorize. Both B and C, they are correct. So the interpersonal communication can encompass speaking aloud, copying text to aid memorizing. That is what I have given it here as an explanation. Interpreting verbal communication, option A. This typically involves understanding and analyzing communication from others, which falls under interpersonal communication rather than intrapersonal. Then speaking aloud, talking to oneself, option B. This is a form of intrapersonal communication. When an individual talks to themselves, they are engaging in a personal dialogue which helps in self-reflection, problem solving and managing emotions. Then another option C, that is copying text to aid memorizing. What does this mean? This also falls under intrapersonal communication. When someone writes or copies text to memorize it, they are engaging in a personal cognitive process to internalize information. Since both B and option C are forms of intrapersonal communication, the correct choice is option D, namely B and C. Now next question, anything which is used as a status symbol is what? Anything that is used as a status symbol, already we were saying object communication. Is it intrapersonal communication, object communication, artistic communication, graphics? This is nothing but object communication, that is status symbol. Policeman wearing the cocky dress, no? That is his pride, that is his power also, status symbol. So, object communication refers to the use of objects to convey messages or information. This form of communication includes the use of material items as symbols that convey social status, personal identity and group affiliation. Status symbols such as luxury cars, designer clothes or expensive gadgets or objects that individuals use to communicate their social standing or wealth to others. These objects serve as a form of non-verbal communication, signaling certain messages to those who observe them. Of course, intrapersonal communication is the communication that occurs within an individual involving thoughts, self-talk and internal dialogues. It does not involve objects or external symbols. Artistic communication, another type we know about it. Artistic communication typically involves the use of art forms like painting, music, dance to convey messages and emotions. While it can include status symbols within the art, it is not specifically about the objects themselves used as status symbols. Then graphics. Graphics refer to the visual representations such as images, drawings or diagrams used to convey information. They are not specifically about the use of objects as status symbols. Therefore, the correct answer is B, object communication. Of course, what is the question? Just once again, just see. Anything which is used as a status symbol is object communication. Which of the following is not a type of non-verbal communication? Bang bang, benediction, clenched fist, headache, The correct answer is headache. Why? Non-verbal communication involves conveying messages without the use of words. It includes various forms of body language, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and other physical behaviors. Let us analyze each option. What is bang bang? This can be considered a type of non-verbal communication. If it refers to onomatopoeic sounds, I think it's a technical term, mimicking gunshots which can communicate danger or urgency without words. Then benediction, what does this mean? This is a gesture typically associated with blessing in religious context. It involves a specific hand movements and can communicate a message of goodwill or blessing without spoken words. Then clenched fist. This is a common gesture that can convey emotions such as anger, determination, or solidarity. It is a clear form of non-verbal communication, clenched fist. Then headache. Why headache is not included, in this list of non-verbal communication? The reason is that it is very much personal, isn't it? Headache is in discomfort. It is not an intentional act to communicate a message. Thus, not a type of non-verbal communication. Therefore, headache is not a type of non-verbal communication because it is a discomfort to a person. In no way is communicating anything out of this. That is the idea here. Then which of the following is not a communication barrier? Risking, scapegoating, blaming, watching. The correct answer is watching. How to explain this? Communication barriers are factors that obstruct or reduce the clarity and effectiveness of communication. Let us analyze each option. Risking. This term is not typically associated with communication barriers directly. It may involve taking chances or facing potential negative outcomes which could indirectly affect communication if it leads to a lack of openness, but it is not a standard communication barrier term. There is another word called scapegoating. Scapegoating. This involves blaming someone else for problems or mistakes, which can create a hostile environment and prevent effective communication. It is indeed a communication barrier as it fosters distrust and defensiveness. Third one, blaming. Similar to scapegoating, blaming involves assigning fault to others, which can lead to conflict and hinder open and honest communication. It is a clear communication barrier, no doubt about it, blaming. Then watching. This term means observing, and in itself, it doesn't inherently interfere with communication. Observing can be a part of effective communication, such as when listening attentively. Therefore, watching is not considered a communication barrier. Thus, watching is the correct answer as it is not a communication barrier. What is the question here? Which of the following is not a communication barrier among the four? So the watching, fits into that question, isn't it? That is the correct answer. Watching is not a communication barrier. Okay. Inability to accept another culture's worldview is what? Ethnocentrism, stereotyping, cultural blindness, discrimination. So inability to accept another culture's worldview is stereotyping. Sometimes we call it cultural blindness, yes. But then cultural blindness, once again, it is because of stereotyping. That is how we are going to argue. And sometimes it is possible that people take cultural blindness as the correct answer. But we need to examine this. The correct answer is stereotyping. Why? Inability to accept another culture's worldview can manifest in various forms. But one common barrier is stereotyping. Stereotyping involves oversimplified, generalized beliefs about a particular group of people, often based on assumptions or prejudices. When individuals or groups stereotype others, they fail to recognize the diversity and complexity within that culture, which can hinder effective cross-cultural communication. Ethnocentrism refers to the belief in the superiority of one's own culture, which can also impede understanding and acceptance of other cultures, but is not specifically about worldview acceptance. Cultural blindness refers to the inability to see or acknowledge cultural differences, not necessarily entail a refusal to accept another culture's worldview. We are blind, yes, but we are not very clear whether we have understood the cultural view, culture, world view or not. So that is not given. Just cultural blindness means we are ignorant perhaps. So discrimination involves unfair treatment of individuals or groups based on characteristics such as race, ethnicity or culture, which can be a consequence of ethnocentrism or stereotyping, but is not synonymous with an inability to accept another culture's worldview. Therefore, stereotyping is the most fitting option as it directly relates to the concept of forming biased beliefs about another culture. Now the next question, the word communist has been derived from certainly Latin word, isn't it? The word communist has its origin in Latin. In Latin, communist means common or shared. It has been used in various languages including Spanish and French, but its root lies in Latin. Which of the following is not a characteristic of communication? Communication is a continuous process. Communication is a two-way process. Communication involves plurality of persons. Communication is an avoidable process, which is not a characteristic of communication. Of course, as soon as we read the last one, we can understand. Communication is an avoidable process. We cannot avoid communication. Immediately we can come to a conclusion. So other things are characteristics of communication. Communication is a continuous process. Communication is a two-way process. Communication involves plurality of persons. All these things are true. But communication is an avoidable process. It is very wrong. Because communication you cannot avoid in anybody's life. Communication is part and parcel of everybody's life. That is why this sentence, namely communication is an avoidable process, is not the characteristic of communication. I hope you explained it enough. And next one, which one of the following is a type of written communication? Instruction, agreements, joint consultations, voicemail. What is the correct answer? Which one of the following is a type of written communication? See, instruction, joint consultation, voicemail all involve words. Whereas agreements are legal agreements actually. So, legal agreements are always written. So, legally binding actually. That's why, which one of the following is a type of written communication? That is agreements. I hope you understood this. Which one of the following is a type of oral communication here? Conferences, notice boards, manuals, circulars. What is the correct answer here? Conferences. Why? It's a type of oral communication. In the notice board, only written communication. Manuals, that is small books, no? Only written communication. Circulars, written communication. Whereas conference, the big seminars, no? There, only spoken words. People talk among themselves, discuss a lot of things. They interact with each other, the conference. So, it's a type of oral communication, conference, among these four. So, the oral communication involves the exchange of information through spoken words. Conferences typically involve face-to-face interaction where ideas, information and discussions are conveyed orally among participants. Notice boards, manuals and circulars are examples of written communication methods. Which one of the following is not a physical barrier? Noise, information overload, body expressed message, improper time, bodily expressed message. So which one of the following is not a physical barrier? That is, bodily expressed message is not a physical barrier. Whereas a noise, information overload, improper time, if communication is done in improper time, or where there is when there is a overload of information, when there is external distraction like noise, then they are all physical barriers. But bodily expressed message is not a physical barrier. Sometimes it can be a very good gesture in order to teach along with the words. So, physical barriers in communication are obstacles that prevent effective exchange of information due to physical reasons. Let us analyze each option in this context because that's important, because it can be coming in other questions. Noise. This is a common physical barrier. Noise can disrupt the communication process by making it difficult for the message to be heard or understood. Then there is information overload. What does this mean? What does this mean? While this can hinder communication, it is more of a psychological barrier rather than a physical one. It refers to the difficulty of processing excessive amounts of information. Then bodily expressed message. This is related to non-verbal communication and involves gestures, facial expressions and body language. It is not a physical barrier, rather it is a form of communication itself. Then improper time. This can act as a physical barrier. For instance, trying to communicate at a time when the receiver is not available or is preoccupied can obstruct the communication process. When the receiver is not available or when he is preoccupied, it can obstruct the communication process. Improper time. Hence, the bodily expressed message does not fit to the definition of a physical barrier in communication. So, which one of the following is not a barrier? Unclarified assumptions, physical distance, variety of meanings, specialist language. Which one of the following is not a barrier? So, unclarified assumption is a barrier. Physical distance, we have to see. Variety of meanings, not a barrier. Specialist language, not a barrier. Is it true? So, which one of the following is not a barrier? They are asking. See, specialist language also can be a barrier. What is specialist language? Suppose in the chemistry department, they are using certain technical words which other students, maybe students from Tamil department cannot understand. So that is specialist language. So unclarified assumption also come under barriers. So which is not a barrier means physical distance. Physical distance, why physical distance? You can talk to a man in America in a few moments, using your WhatsApp, using your smartphone. No time you can contact. So physical distance is not a barrier. Though it is a discomfort, but it is not a physical barrier as such. So that is what we are saying here. Next, a wrong choice of a channel is a type of what? Wrong choice of channel normally happens in an organizational barrier. Emotional barrier is there, semantic barrier, physical barrier is there. Semantic barrier means with regard to understanding the meaning of what one says. Meaning. Semantic barrier. Physical barrier is there. Emotional barrier is the organizational barrier. Wrong choice of channel is a type of organizational barrier. Why? A wrong choice of channel refers to selecting an inappropriate medium for communication within an organization. This can hinder the effective transmission of messages, leading to misunderstandings, delays, or distortions of information. This type of barrier is related to the structure and processes within the organization. Hence, it is categorized as an organizational barrier. I suppose you understood. So, organizational barrier, normally this can hinder the effective transmission of messages, leading to misunderstanding. When a top official makes a mistake in his words, it affects the entire organization. That is the understanding. It is a wrong channel by the organization. Next one, emotional barrier. Semantic barrier means what? It relates to misunderstandings arising from differences in the meaning of words and symbols. Meaning, very important. Semantic. Often they are asking in NET, exams. Semantic barrier. It is related to the meanings of words and symbols. Physical barrier, you know that. It involves external physical environment factors that impede communication, such as noise, distance, or poor equipment. For which level of student the lecture method is not suitable? Higher level, ordinary level, lower level, none of these. The correct answer is lower level. Why? The lecture method is a traditional teaching approach where the teacher delivers content directly to students, often through verbal instructions and presentations. This method is most suitable for higher and ordinary levels of students because higher level students, they have developed listening and note-taking skills. They can process information delivered verbally and can engage critically with the content. So lecture method is okay for them. Then ordinary level students, they are typically in a developmental stage where they can benefit from structured information delivery, although it may need to be supplemented with interactive methods. So a lecture method also is fine with some examples. with some models, with some instructional aids. That's fine for ordinary level students. Whereas lower level students, typically young children in early education, the lecture method is not at all suitable for the lower level students. Why? Attention span is very low in children. Younger students have shortest attention spans and find it difficult to stay engaged during the long lectures. They cannot listen to lecture for a long time, in other words. The learning style, they learn better through interactive, hands-on activities, play and visual aids rather than listening to extended verbal instruction. Learning style itself is so different, they need different types of instruction. The developmental needs, they require more active participation, movement and engagement to grasp concepts effectively. So even the movement, physical movement also is helping them to learn better. So that way lecture method is not suitable for lower level students. Which of the following skills has the largest share in communication time in schools or colleges? Is it reading, writing, speaking or listening? Of course listening. Most of the time in schools and colleges, students listen to the lecturers. That's what's happening even now, in spite of all the modern techniques we are using, online techniques we are using. Just see what is given there. While reading, writing and speaking are also integral parts of the educational process, listening encompasses a broader range of activities and occupies a larger proportion of the communication time, that we know. Now next question, all are the components of listening except one. What is that? Hearing, attending, being attentive, answering, understanding and remembering. So all are the components: hearing, attending, being attentive, understanding and remembering are all components of listening, no doubt, but except one, answering. So the correct answer here is answering. Answering, except answering, other options are components of listening. That is how we have to understand. Listening is a complex process that involves several stages. The key components of listening typically include hearing, the physical process of sound waves hitting the eardrum and being transmitted to the brain. That is the physiology of hearing. Then attending, the psychological process of focusing attention on the sounds being heard. Then understanding, the cognitive process of comprehending the message being conveyed. Then remembering, the ability to recall information that has been heard and understood. But answering, on the other hand, is a component of responding which comes after the listening process. While it is related to communication, it is not a direct component of the listening process itself. I hope you understood. So answering will not fit into this what is that called, listening characteristics, components of listening. Listening is badly affected by message overload, that is excess of listened material, high speed of speaking, a sizable hearing loss, physiological problem, and all of the above. And what is the correct one? Listening is badly affected by all of the above, no doubt about it. If there is overload of information, people cannot understand much. If the speed of speaking is too high, then the student cannot understand the message. And then if there is a hearing loss on the part of the student, there is a physiological problem in the students, they cannot follow the class also. So listening is badly affected by all these three things. Okay. Next one, the most important aspect of communication, listening, can be improved by what? Making the attention fully paid, making the communicated material novel, interesting and need-based, making voice effective and impressive. So the most important aspect of communication, listening, can be improved by all of this: making the attention fully paid, so full attention is needed; making the communicated material novel, it should be creative, it should be interesting, in other words. The message communicated should be interesting. Then making voice effective, you should be having high pitch, high voice, so that the teacher is able to attract the students. So making voice effective and impressive, all of these, that's the correct answer. The most important aspect of communication, namely listening. For this, all these three are important. So, what is the explanation here? Making the attention fully paid, of course, just read yourself. So that is making the attention fully paid. What is making the communicated material novel, that is interesting and need-based, according to the needs of the students. So third one, making voice effective and impressive. Of course, the speaker's voice plays a crucial role in communication. A clear, well modulated, that is, ups and downs, in the speech, the voice going up, coming lower, like that. Well modulated and the expressive voice can help convey the message more effectively and keep the listener engaged, facilitating better listening. Since all these factors contribute to improving the listening aspect of communication, the correct choice is all of this, no doubt about it. The process of communication enhances through belongingness, security and freedom to make choices, informality of meeting and avoidance of pressure, large group discussion. The process of communication enhances through what? Security and freedom to make choices. That keeps the people to express themselves freely, without any fear, without anybody's opinion or anything. They can be creative. So, sense of belongingness, yes. More than that is security and freedom to make choices. That is the process of communication. In generally, it is enhanced through security and freedom to make choices. Of course, other things are also there, but this is the most fitting answer here. The process of communication enhances through security and freedom to make choices. So, communication is the most effective when individuals feel secure and have the freedom to make choices. The environment fosters openness, reduces fear of judgment, and encourages honest and meaningful exchanges. When people feel secure and free, they are more likely to express their thoughts and ideas clearly and engage more fully in the communication process. So, what is belongingness? It is important for creating a sense of community and inclusion, but does not directly address the enhancement of the communication process itself. Then informality of meeting and avoidance of pressure. Option C. What does this mean? It can also improve communication by making participants feel more relaxed. But it is the underlying security and freedom that are more fundamental to enhancing communication. That you have to understand. Large group discussion, option D, might provide more perspectives, but it can sometimes hinder individual participation and effective communication due to its size and complexity. Therefore, security and freedom to make choices is the best answer here, as it directly enhances the process of communication by creating a conducive environment for open and honest interaction. Which of the following cannot be a good way of communication in promoting literacy among villages? Is it demonstration, reading and writing, providing material on TV and film projector, large group discussion? Which of the following cannot be a good way of communication in promoting literacy among villages? The correct answer is what? Reading and writing. You can demonstrate certain things and then make them learn. Because they are not having literacy. Literacy means how to write and read and write, write, isn't it? So reading and writing they cannot do. So what is the use of giving education through reading and writing? It is not at all possible because they cannot read. But whereas demonstration, providing material on TV and film projector, large group discussion, you can make them learn certain things. So the correct answer is reading and writing. So, reading and writing cannot be a good way of communication in promoting literacy among villagers. Of course, that is what I have explained. Of course, you can just read it yourself. What is demonstration is an effective way of communication because it involves showing how something is done, which can be particularly helpful for individuals with limited literacy skills. Visual and hands-on demonstrations can help villagers understand concepts without needing to read or write. Of course, providing material on TV and film projector, you know. What is the effect of it? You have experienced, no doubt about it. The large group discussion. This method fosters community engagement and allows individuals to learn from each other through verbal communication. So this is also a good method. Large group discussion is also a good method for teaching, villages. Villages means villagers who are not having literacy skills. Right. Next one. All are the examples of the media of two-way communication except. So two-way communication, public meeting, two-way communication, street play, two-way communication, procession and rallies, two-way communication. Whereas Padayatra, a leader with his followers simply walking on the road. So it is people are simply seeing this, passively observing, that's all. So they are not actively involving with the Padayatra people. So a leader with his followers is going silently on the road as Padayatra. So the Padayatra cannot be two-way communication. Whereas a public meeting, street plays, procession and rallies can become two-way communication. Which of the following is not a successful communicator? One who presents material in a precise and clear way, one who is able to adapt himself according to the language of the communicatee, one who knows a lot but is somewhat reserved in his attitude, one who sometimes becomes informal before the receiver and develops a rapport. So, who will not be a successful communicator? Of course, three things are okay. One who presents material in a precise, correct and clear way, and one who is able to adapt himself according to the language of the communicatee. He comes to the level of the receiver in the language. That is also good. One who sometimes becomes informal before the receiver and develops a rapport. That means a friendliness. So informal way, friendly way where someone talks and then makes himself friendly with another person. That is also a good communicator. Whereas one who knows a lot, he knows many things, but he is not speaking. He is mum. He keeps everything in his heart. He is so much reserved. That means he is not at all sharing anything, from his language bounty. Then this person will not be successful. So C is the right option here. What is the question? Which of the following is not a successful communicator? This one who knows a lot but is somewhat reserved in his attitude. That is what I explained here. Just see yourself. Next question. Which of the following steps would you consider first as an effective communicator? I hope you understood the question. Which of the following steps would you consider first as an effective communicator? Select the channels of communication, plan the evaluation procedure, specify the objectives of communication, identify various media of communication. Which is the right one? C. First you need objectives. Before selecting the channel, before thinking about the various media, one must have, the communicator should have the objectives first. So, specifying the objectives of communication is the first step in communication theory. Okay, that is what I have just given here. Another important question, often they are asked this one, maybe before 2010 somewhere. Catharsis means discharge of emotions. Of course, it comes in psychology. A teacher can let off pent-up energy of his disciples through picnics and excursions, mock parliament, celebration of festivals. Of course, everyone is having pent-up energy. How will you release it? A teacher can release his pent-up energy or his disappointment or something or bad emotions. How? Through picnics and excursions, mock parliament, celebration of festivals, all of the above. I have given mock parliament. Sometimes people tend to say all of the above, but I have a difference of opinion, but it has to be checked anyway. Catharsis refers to the release or discharge of pent-up emotions or tensions. In the context of a teacher letting off the pent-up energy of their disciples, a mock parliament would be an effective method. Mock parliament involves students role-playing as members of parliament, engaging in debates and discussions on various topics. This activity allows students to express their opinions, thoughts and emotions in a controlled and constructive environment, thereby achieving catharsis. Picnics, excursions and the celebration of festivals can also provide opportunities for relaxation and bonding, but they may not necessarily facilitate the release of pent-up emotions. That is the difference. A mock parliament does, yes, because there people will be shouting as if in the parliament, ruling party, opposite party, even the pent-up feelings, their ideas will come out. So that way they will be releasing their tension. So that's the correct answer in my opinion. Language is an instinctive development. It is a system of symbols for effective communication, medium to express experiences, medium for self-enhancement. What do you mean by language in communication? Is it instinctive development? It is a system of symbols for effective communication, medium to express experiences, medium for self-enhancement. Of course, so many things are, okay to some extent, but then the most, fitting answer here will be system of symbols for effective communication. So language is always considered to be a system of symbols for effective communication. In fact, a language is abstract. That is how we define the language. So, language serves as a system of symbols for effective communication. It allows individuals to convey their thoughts, ideas, feelings, and experiences to others through spoken or written words. While language may involve instinctive elements in its development and can certainly be a medium for expressing experiences or enhancing oneself, its primary function is to serve as a structured system of symbols that facilitates communication between individuals. Therefore, option B is the most accurate description of language role. That is, language is a system of symbols for effective communication. With this, we are ending, this communication part. Of course, more questions could be asked, but that could be coming in different style, perhaps. But in order to understand the concepts, I have given the model questions here. I hope you understood it. Thank you for your patience. God bless you abundantly. Kindly go through all this. Some people say that all these things are not necessary. By going through question and answer method, you can crack NET. Everything people are saying, it's a surprise to me. It is not at all possible anyone who doesn't understand the basic concepts in that topic. So please listen to my words. First, at least have some idea about the concept. After that, you get into any type of question, no problem. You listen to anyone who is giving questions, answers, explanation, never mind. But then the concepts are very important. I repeat to my students, please, for heaven's sake, don't think that the questions that we are giving in the YouTube channel or any other channel will be coming as it is. These are all only models. That is why you should be concentrating on the concepts. What are the basic concepts? What are the meanings of such basic concepts? How they are interrelated to each other. All these things are a matter. Any successful students will go through the concepts and that question and answer method. So if you don't go through the concepts as such, it will not develop any confidence in you by merely going through question and answer. No one can give you any guarantee of getting those questions in the NET exam. They are always changing the question pattern. Even the words, everything will be changed. Models, yes, models it can be there. So I request you to go through the concepts first and then questions second. Thank you very much. God bless you abundantly for listening to my voice. Kindly subscribe so that I am boosted up to give more and more productive videos for you, and also my videos become more valuable before the eyes of others. Thank you very much.